So my daily routine while I'm at home, every morning I would get out to the koi pond, check the feeder, make sure the feeder is not only topped up. Normally I know it's topped up because I know roughly the time of how much food I'm feeding when it needs topping up, but make sure it works, give it a press and let it spray out a few pellets so I know it's working fine. And I make my way over to the fish house, and in the fish house I'll go in and check that everything is running fine. I'll go in, have a look at the drum, make sure it's good. That's the main equipment on that pond, so I got to make sure the drum is fine. I would see whether the itself needs a bit of a spraying down. I got my hose that is hot water or warm. I could use that to wash out the drum, wash out the chute in any way and form. Don't ever think that a drum is without maintenance. It needs some maintenance. If you have one, you know what I mean. Then also I'll check my KH and my pH. I don't really check that every day because I know where it runs. I run it on a KH of 1. Most of the time it sits at a KH of 15 milligrams, which at 17 milligrams is a KH of 1 degree. So I keep it just below 1 degree, and the pH sort of sits around a pH of 6.98 to 7.01, and that's where I keep it all year round. That water out of my tap is quite hard in Leicester. It's, I think the KH is something like 9 or 10, and the pH is about 8.5. For me, that's not good to keep koi at. Yes, you could grow koi, relatively small koi in the first, second year, but maintaining quality and fish levels, for me, I've got to run it soft. So that's why I use the reverse osmosis in that way. And so that's part of my daily routine. In that way, I make sure everything is running and ticking over fine. I try to observe the fish from my window, which I can do without them seeing me, and that's important because fish tend to behave a little bit different as you approach them. They know you're there, they can sense you. My fish know I'm in the garden to see me through the window, so I like to observe them from afar off, because in that way I can see if any one of them is looking like something is up, if they look like they need a scrape or what have you. But the beauty about not adding fish to your pond often is that you're able to sort of keep infections and parasites bayed. That don't mean you wouldn't get any, but you sort of keep it because you have a good system to run. And I believe every koi keeper should have a quarantine. I know it's very difficult to do so for many, including myself, for many years, but I've managed to, after many years, get my quarantine secured. And there'll be another video about me setting up my quarantine. Not a grow on, it's a quarantine. I don't really like to grow fish in the dark or where there's no natural sunlight that we have now. So for me, it's just a quarantine to keep fish in before they come into my pond, whether they come from a dealer's or come back from a show. I would like them staying there for at least 4 to 6 weeks, make sure they're fine before they come into my pond itself. So those are part of my daily routine of how I look after my fish. So with the red label drum controller on the dirty side and the active side, I'm allowed to set it to where I want it to clean. At this point it's set at the lowest point, so that means the water would lower until it's to that point there, and then it would clean. In the heavy feeding season I'll bring that up so it cleans more frequently, and in the seasons where I'm not feeding as much, I will take the set point lower, and I don't have to touch, lower any probes, get my hand in the water. I do all that from the touch of my drum. Also, one of the things it has is it has an emergency code, which is if the drum goes into continuous clean, because this drum uses a pump on the inside that cleans from the pond water, which is better for people on the water meter because it means you can refresh back with fresh water via the chlorinator. So what this means is, this code means, is if the drum goes into continuous clean, anybody could press 112 and the drum will go back to setting, and ignoring the issue at hand until you can fix it. So it will clean, basically will clean every 20 minutes. It will just set it at that, and the way you reset it is just switch it off, turn it back on. Also, one of the things I like about this drum, and like I said, it's first generation, so I do plan to go and have a look at the third generation. One of the things I like about it, sorry, I'm the wrong bit, is the pressure probe. Now this probe here is what determines when it cleans, and it's based on pressure, water pressure. Some drums uses a light, super light, just like a couple of watts of electric bumping in the water, and determines the clean. This is pressure, so it determines by how fill it is, then it will clean in its way as well. So for me, I like these little upgrades on this drum, and like I did say, it's the first generation, so there is more to come as well on the third generation, and new control box and things like that. So, but for 5 years running, I've had to clean the screen a couple of times, probably in the 5 years, maybe 3 times. I've cleaned the screen. I've had the seal replaced there, and I've been told that the new one has a life seal, which means it could never ever allow any bypass through on this side. So I'm looking forward to see that and see how it works as well. But yeah, for me, I like this Red Label, and like I don't work for Red Label, don't get any ideas in your head, but a few guys were asking me about it at the Koi show, so I wanted to highlight them to you on a video itself. So hopefully that makes sense.